California man charged with a DUI for driving under the influence of caffeine. A Hebrew discovery could rewrite the history books, and another huge land grab by President Obama. SkyWatch TV for Monday, January 2nd, 2017. I'm Derek Gilbert. Welcome to the new year. I'm glad to be back, and a special thank you to the J team, Jake Rahutsky, Josh Peck, and Joe Artis-Horn for covering for me those last few days before Christmas. Thank you for your notes of concern and prayers. The sinus infection and other stuff is now gone. Happy to be back. Happy to be working again, and looking forward to an exciting new year. First up, another deadly terror attack in Turkey. This on New Year's Eve. 39 people dead, another 70 or so wounded. The gunman reportedly wore a Santa Claus hat, although there are some questions about whether or not that's accurate. Killer has not yet been identified, and Turkish police are searching the country, a manhunt now underway to try to find that attacker. German Chancellor Angela Merkel, in her annual New Year's address to the country, said that Islamic terrorism is the greatest challenge facing Germany in 2017. 12 people, you remember, were killed in a truck attack on a Christmas market in Berlin on December 19th. Just a thought, maybe the Merkel government shouldn't have allowed 1 million Muslims into the country over the last year. Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan last week accused the United States of supporting ISIS. Now, if you've watched this program for any length of time, you'd know that he is, in fact, correct. Department of Defense intelligence memo dated to August of 2012 warned the White House to quit sending weapons to the rebels in Syria or risk setting up an independent Islamic state in eastern Syria. And that, of course, is exactly what's happened. However, President Erdogan, in making this accusation, is also the pot calling the kettle black. He is also, by the way, accusing the U.S. of supporting the Kurdish militia groups, the YPG, and he's also correct about that. But the Kurds have been the most effective force fighting the Islamic State in the ongoing war in Syria and Iraq. Now, oddly enough, the United States Embassy in Ankara is publicly denying American support for the YPG. They posted that denial to the embassy's official website. Now, somebody at the White House needs to get their signal straight between the embassy and their official media outlet, the Washington Post, which just published a story showing how our policy of sending weapons to the Kurds has really been effective in advancing the fight to the Islamic State. So either the embassy is lying or the Washington Post is publishing fake news again. In Baghdad, Iraq, 3 bombs killed 29 people on Saturday. ISIS has claimed the responsibility for these attacks. Meanwhile, fighting is heating up again in the northern city of Mosul, the last major urban stronghold for the Islamic State in Iraq. Now, some analysts are beginning to question whether the Iraqi troops can actually dislodge ISIS from Mosul, even with the support of U.S. Special Forces troops. U.S. Spec Ops troops have been spotted on the front lines of the battle for Mosul in recent weeks. In fact, more frequently as the days go on. The combat brigade commander told reporters over the weekend that American troops are deepening the integration with Iraqi units, which is a nice way of saying that U.S. troops are playing a bigger role in the fighting. And doubling down on the claim that Russia hacked the U.S. presidential election, the Washington Post led the U.S. media to report on Friday that Russian hackers had penetrated the American electrical grid. Up in Vermont, Burlington Electric announced that it found a laptop with malware code linked to Russian hackers. Except that isn't exactly what happened. The malware on this particular laptop was old code once it was analyzed. By hacker standards, this is actually obsolete. Security companies have figured out how to defeat it. The other embarrassing fact, inconvenient truth, is that it's linked to Ukrainian hackers, not Russians. Except the Washington Post doesn't want to report that because we're allies with Ukraine. We want them in NATO because we want them as, opposing Russia. They're on Russia's borders. Burlington Electric actually was compelled on Saturday, to go public and correct the story because it had been picked up by the major media and was getting out of hand. Politicians in Vermont stating publicly that this was the work of the world's foremost thug, Vladimir Putin, when in fact, according to Burlington Electric, the laptop was not connected to the network at the power plant in any way, was not connected to the power grid in any way, shape, or form. And again, the malware was not Russian. So the Washington Post editors had to change the headline on the story and issue a postscript, just like it did on its previous story, where they accused websites like the Drudge Report, True News, Infowars.com, SteveQuail.com, and others of being propagandists for the Kremlin. Fake news. Now, President Obama is staying the course, though, in response to Russia's hack of the election. 35 Russian ambassadors were expelled from the country. They arrived back in Russia over the weekend. We'll see how long they have to stay out of the country after Inauguration Day, January 20th. And President Obama is going out with a slew of new regulations and land grabs. With a stroke of his pen, the president unilaterally declared huge chunks of Utah and Nevada to be national monuments, which puts them under the control of the federal government. Those states are already mostly under the control of the federal government. Now, the area in Nevada includes the site of the Bundy standoff from 2014, you might remember, a dispute over grazing rights for cattle that turned into a real mess. In fact, the land allocated for this new national monument almost exactly matches the land allocated to the Bundys to graze their cattle. In fact, it almost goes right up to the border of the property owned by Cliven Bundy and his family. Now, I'm not a coincidence theorist. Things usually don't happen by accident, not at the highest levels of government. Usually what happens is exactly what they want to happen. They just don't tell us what they want to happen, which is why we tend to think that they're incompetent. President Obama may, in fact, be trying to provoke another armed standoff, like the standoff at the Bundy Ranch and the standoff in Oregon last year, which, another way, he's essentially trying to burn the ground behind him before President-elect Trump can take office. Well, coming up, exorcists for the Vatican are warning about pharmakia, demon possession by drug use. That and more straight ahead on SkyWatch TV.
Could there exist ancient mysteries that have never been unlocked? Are there secrets waiting thousands of years to be uncovered? Are there hidden keys that can transform your life into one of joy, victory, success, fulfillment, and blessing? Imagine if you could have a treasure chest that contained ancient mysteries, the secrets of the ages, the answers to our most enduring questions, and the keys to transforming your life. This is what you'll get in the Book of Mysteries by Jonathan Cahn, author of the New York Times bestsellers, The Harbinger and The Mystery of the Shemitah. As you open up the Book of Mysteries, you will be transported on a journey through a desert to encounter a man known only as the Teacher, who will take you on an odyssey to mountaintops, caverns, encampments of tent dwellers, and oil-lit chambers of scrolls, ancient books, and mysterious vessels, to open the mysteries of the age and your life. Unlock such mysteries as the portal, the mystery of the eighth day, the Maccabean blueprint, the bridegroom's visitation, the seven mysteries of the age, and much more. Enter a one-year odyssey with 365 different mysteries, one for every day of the year. Begin your journey, open up the treasures, unlock the mysteries, and change your life with the Book of Mysteries by Jonathan Cahn, available where all books are sold.
Jonathan Cahn, the best-selling author of The Harbinger and Mystery of the Shemitah, brings his brand new book to SkyWatch TV. The Book of Mysteries, officially released September 6th. It's a story, a journey, and a daily devotional like no other. And when you order the Book of Mysteries from SkyWatch TV, we'll include The Mystery of the Shemitah, 2 Jonathan Cahn DVDs, The 6 Heavenly Entities, and The Cosmic Bride and Bridegroom, 2 free promotional gift books, and a 1-year subscription to the new SkyWatchTV magazine. It's a total value of more than $100, yours for just $25. Or you can order a 10-pack, 10 copies of all the books and DVDs, gifts for your friends. Total value of more than $1,000, yours for just $199. This offer is only available from SkyWatch TV. Order the Jonathan Cahn Book of Mysteries bundle today by calling toll-free 844-750-4985. That's 844-750-4985. Or log on to skywatchtvstore.com. A new year, another earthquake swarm near the San Andreas Fault. More than 250 small quakes since Saturday at the small town of Brawley, California. That's about 20 miles south of the Salton Sea and about 30 miles from the San Andreas Fault. In fact, the area where the quakes are clustered connects the San Andreas Fault with another fault line. Experts say they don't expect a major quake, but they are keeping a close watch. Christians, according to a new report, continue to be the most persecuted religious group on planet Earth. 90,000 Christians killed last year around the world, according to the Independent Center for the Study of New Religions. That's based in Turin, Italy. The report indicates about 70% of those deaths occurred in tribal conflicts in Africa. The rest were victims of terror attacks, government persecutions, and attacks on Christian villages in third world nations. Now, understanding that Christian persecution is a real thing is a real problem for progressives. They just don't understand the spiritual war that's taking place around us. And their worldview is so different from yours and mine that they have a real problem grasping what's going on. They don't even speak the same language. Here's an example, a story over the weekend published by The Atlantic magazine. They interviewed a former member of the Obama White House, Michael Ware, who's got a new book coming out. He is kind of a rare individual, one of the few Obama supporters who is theologically conservative, a theologically conservative Christian. He was opposed to abortion, opposed to same-sex marriage, but he was working in the White House trying to help the rest of the team understand why you and I are not supporting the Democratic Party and President Obama. Now, he explained one of the problems that he had in trying to get the staff there to understand the worldview of most of us in flyover country, conservative Christians, is that they have absolutely no frame of reference to understand what we are even talking about. He gave as an example an incident where he wrote a fact sheet on outreach to faith-based groups describing President Obama's views and policies on fighting poverty. And the title of this paper was Economic Fairness and the Least of These. Economic Fairness and the Least of These. Now, if you read the Bible at all, or even paid attention to your pastor or priest on Sunday mornings, you probably recognize the phrase, quotes Jesus, specifically Matthew 25, verse 40, from the King James. And the king shall answer and say unto them, Verily I say unto you, inasmuch as ye have done it unto one of the least of these, my brethren, ye have done it unto me. The least of these, my brethren. This is a reference to how the Jews will be treated during the period of the Great Tribulation. Well, he turned the paper in for distribution, and another member of the White House staff kept deleting the phrase, the least of these, because he thought it was a typo. Said it didn't make any sense. Who/what are these? The phrase did not register with him at all, thought it was a mistake. Just an example. They talk a different language. They don't get us. Another example. On Christmas Day, and I missed this story because I was trying to stay away from the news on Christmas Day, BuzzFeed reported on a flap that was taking place in the Twitter sphere because the chairman of the RNC, who is President-elect Trump's chief of staff, Reince Priebus, put out a note on Christmas talking about how this Christmas we look forward to the coming of the new king. Now, as a Christian, you understand what he's talking about. He's talking about Jesus. He is the king, and he is coming back, and he will take over and be the king. But because progressives, liberal Christians, or secular, people with a totally secular worldview, don't get the reference, immediately the Twitter sphere blew up because they assumed that Priebus was talking about Donald Trump. They don't even talk the same language as us. Sadly, what this means for you and me, because we are commanded to make disciples of all nations and to love our enemies, is that we might have to take some abuse in order to have the opportunity to present the good news of the gospel. If we respond in kind with abuse, we make ourselves a stumbling block between them and the good news. Now, if it becomes clear, obvious that they are not receptive, we can follow Jesus' command, which is to shake the dust of their town from our sandals and move on. But we are not given license to respond with hate for hate. Loving our enemies, nothing about that is easy. If it was, everybody would be doing it. The Trump transition team, by the way, has invited Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to the inauguration. That may happen. This is cool. A scholar, an archaeologist, epigrapher, and professor of ancient Egyptian studies says the ancient Israelites took Egyptian hieroglyphs and transformed it into the 22 letters that correspond to the Hebrew alphabet today. What does that mean? It means that Hebrew may in fact be the world's oldest alphabet. Not the Phoenicians, the Hebrews. Dr. Douglas Petrovich says he's found Proto-Hebrew alphabetic text dating back to the 19th century BC. That would be just about the time that Jacob and Joseph and the family arrived in Egypt. In fact, some of the texts that he's deciphered make references to biblical characters like Moses, Joseph, and the father of one of the guys who was tasked with building the tabernacle. In fact, one of these texts, he said, was actually, or some of them, were written by Manasseh, the son of Joseph. This is really remarkable. Wow is the correct response. Expect a lot of pushback from other scholars, other academics, because this confirms the Bible, and that's not going to happen without some fight. Petrovich has a book coming out in 2017, this year, on this topic. I plan to pre-order. Another story, shifting gears, from Florida, which is where the majority of this type of story comes from. We'll call it the zombie apocalypse file. A naked man in Tampa shut down traffic there early last Wednesday morning. He was running around in traffic, 5:30 in the morning, jumping on cars. Police had to work to subdue him. The man smashed his head into a windshield with such force that the windshield cracked. Sadly, the man died of his injuries later. And meanwhile, exorcists with the Roman Catholic Church are warning about the spiritual danger of drug abuse, specifically synthetic marijuana. It's called Spice, or K2. It's incredibly dangerous, more or less a poison that causes psychosis, like other drugs, bath salts, flakka. Roman Catholic exorcists are warning that drugs are a gateway, an entry point for intelligent evil to commandeer the body. Now, secular reporters looking at this story kind of laugh it off, like these priests are trying to create demand for their services. They consider the effects of drugs like these to be purely chemical, fully within the realm of science. There are none so blind as those who will not see. The Bible specifically equates pharmakia, which is the root word of pharmacy and pharmaceutical, pharmakia with sorcery. It is a doorway to allowing entities to commandeer and take over the body. And finally, a motorist in California charged with DUI for abusing a drug, caffeine. He was pulled over in August of 2015, accused by the arresting officer of driving erratically. A breathalyzer showed a blood alcohol content of 0. The officer wasn't convinced, arrested the driver, took him in, drew blood. Lab results, no alcohol. However, there was caffeine, and apparently that was good enough for the district attorney in Solano County, California. They have filed charges for being under the influence of coffee. The driver's defense attorney says he's never heard of anything like this. Trial begins January 11th. Needless to say, it's got us here at SkyWatch TV just a bit concerned. Chief Elmore, Sheriff Rader, we're not going to have a problem here, are we? Find us online. Ooh, that's good. SkyWatchTV.com, and you'll find me online at DerekPGilbert.com. Thank you for watching as we keep watch. I'm Derek Gilbert, and this is SkyWatch TV.